Cost Management Part 1, question number 1. The distribution of overhead costs is known as cost allocation. Yes, that makes perfect sense because overhead distribution is what you call cost allocation. Cost management normally is the concept that we use for controlling cost. So this is incorrect. Burden distribution, it's a wrong term. We don't use such terminology. Rather, it's called cost allocation. We distribute the cost over different cost centers or maybe different profit centers and so on and so forth. Uncontrollable cost allocation. The word itself is meaningless because uncontrollable means the cost cannot be controlled, which is not true because overhead costs, whether they are fixed or variable, they can be controlled. Variable cost is more controllable. Fixed overhead are relatively difficult but still controllable by someone at some level within the organization. So we got a right option. Cost allocation is the distribution of overhead cost over different products, jobs, processes, services, so on and so forth. Question number 2. Which of the following is assigned to goods that were either purchased or manufactured for resale? Relevant cost, it's an important concept, but this is not what we're looking for. Relevant cost, it's the cost relevant to a particular decision that is under consideration. We are looking for the cost that is assigned to goods purchased or goods manufactured. Not right answer. Period costs are these costs like selling distribution cost or marketing cost, administrative cost, which are not made the part of the product or called period cost. So clearly we're looking for a product cost or the purchase cost of the product. Opportunity cost is incorrect because opportunity cost is the lost profit in a decision making process. This is discussed in detail elsewhere. Product cost, yes. Which of the following is assigned to goods that were either purchased or manufactured for resale? Product costs are the costs for purchased components, purchased parts, purchased units, or the units manufactured within the company for resale. If a product required a great deal of electricity to produce and crude oil prices increased, which of the following costs most likely increased? If the crude oil price increases, then it will increase the cost of generating electricity, and then it will increase the cost for the firm when they use this electricity in production process. Remember, electricity is neither direct material nor direct labor, and prime cost is the sum of direct material, direct labor, so it's neither prime cost, then it has to be conversion cost. Remember, electricity is considered as a part of manufacturing overhead. So this is the right option. Conversion cost is the correct option. Why? Because we know conversion cost is equal to direct labor and manufacturing overhead. Since electricity is a part of manufacturing overhead, hence conversion cost would go up, and that makes D to be the correct option. Next, Arbor Corporation uses a water cooling system in its manufacturing operations. Gallons of water purchased for engine cooling increases with the manufacturing production. If you produce more units, you need more water, so the water consumption goes up. Water and sewer utility costs recorded by Arbor corporations are billed to the company based on a minimum charge plus a rate for utilization beyond the minimum charge of 5,000 gallons of usage. Arbor would most likely classify its utility cost to be, since there is a minimum charge which you have to pay, then the next component depends upon the usage. So without doubt, this is semi-variable cost, sometimes also called the mixed cost. That would make C to be the correct option. So it's not completely variable, not entirely fixed. It is mixed of these two. That's why it's called the semi-variable cost or the mixed cost. Non-diversifiable is a meaningless term here. Non-diversifiable or diversifiable is considered in portfolio construction. Totally irrelevant here. Conversion costs do not include, we know conversion cost is the sum of direct labor and manufacturing overhead, right? So it does include indirect labor, it does include indirect material, it does include direct labor. What it doesn't include is the direct material. That's why A is the right option. Which of the following is true regarding inventoriable costs? Inventoriable costs include the prime cost of manufacturing a product, that is direct labor and direct material. So what about the manufacturing overhead? It is also a part of product. It is also inventoriable cost. Incorrect. Inventoriable costs include only the conversion cost of manufacturing. that is direct labor and manufacturing overhead. What about direct material, which is a very important component of manufacturing costs? So incorrect. Inventoriable costs are regarded as assets before the products are sold. This is absolutely right. This is the correct option. Inventoriable cost, direct material, direct labor and manufacturing overhead, it is considered as an asset when a product is completed. And till it is completed, it's an asset. When the product is sold, it becomes cost. We debit cost of goods sold and we remove the inventory from our stock. So this is a correct option. The inventoriable cost exclude fixed factory overhead. Wrong. Rent, insurance, property taxes, depreciation, it is very much part of your product cost. Wrong option. Which of the following costs includes all of the product costs? Direct material plus conversion cost, which is the sum of direct labor and manufacturing overhead, and these are the three costs that make up your product cost. Look no further. This is your right option. Why not B, direct labor and conversion cost? It misses direct material. Manufacturing overhead and conversion cost, again it excludes direct material. Direct labor and prime cost, in fact direct labor is a part of prime cost, it is missing manufacturing overhead. We got our right option, it's A. Huron Industries has recently developed two new products, a cleaning unit for laser discs, okay, and a tape duplicator for reproducing home movies taken with a video camera, tape duplicator. However, Huron has only enough plant capacity to introduce one of these products during the current year. The company controller has gathered the following data to assist management in deciding which product should be selected for the production. Huron fixed overheads includes rent, makes sense. Utilities, little debatable because utilities are not entirely fixed, partly fixed, partly variable. Anyways, equipment depreciation is fixed. Supervisory salaries fixed. Selling and administrative expenses are fixed and are not allocated to the products, and of course they shouldn't be. Now what it says further, as per the requirement, the total overheads of $27 for Huron laser disc cleaning unit. This is the laser disc cleaning unit, and total overheads means the fixed and variable combined, 18 plus 9. Now, variable overheads might include indirect material, indirect labor, utilities like electricity. Fixed overheads we discussed earlier like rent, insurance, depreciation, supervisor salaries. This is collectively is what you call the mixed cost. So which is the option? Let's see is the right one. It is not the carrying cost. Carrying cost is the cost to carry the inventory in your warehouse. Sunk cost is the cost that has already been paid. Mixed cost is partly variable, partly fixed. And committed cost is the cost that you have to pay irrespective whether you produce the goods or not, like lease payments, like insurance. And so we got the right answer. It's a mixed cost. Which of the following costs would decrease if production level were increased within the relevant range? Total fixed cost would stay the same. Variable cost per unit, we know, we just discussed this in our overview. Total fixed cost and the variable cost per unit, they both stay the same within the relevant range. C is incorrect as well, because when the production level goes up, total variable cost also increases. Incorrect. Yes. Fixed cost per unit falls. Let's say if your fixed cost is $10,000, if you produce just 100 units, your fixed cost per unit is going to be $100. And if you produce, let's say, 1,000 units, look at this, your fixed cost per unit will fall to $10, from 100 to 10. So this is absolutely right. When you increase your level of output from 100 to 1,000, your fixed cost per unit will fall, and that's the right option. Which of the following best describes the direct labor? Direct labor is a prime cost? Yes. Is it a product cost? Yes. Then both prime cost and product cost is the one we are looking for. Both a product cost and prime cost? Yes, D is the right option. Which of the following is correct regarding the relevant range? Total variable cost will not change. Wrong. Total variable cost will change. If you increase the level of activity, total variable cost will go up. If you decrease the level of activity, total variable cost will come down. Incorrect. Total fixed cost will not change. That is true. That is correct. Within the relevant range, Total fixed cost stays the same and variable cost per unit stays the same. Why not C? The relevant range cannot be changed after being established. It can always be. It's not something that is unchangeable. The relevant range will remain the same as long as prices do not change. This is incorrect because cost relationships, they establish relevant range. They determine relevant range, not prices. In managerial accounting, the term relevant range is often used to describe the theoretical maximum and minimum ranges the company could operate in. This is incorrect because theoretical maximum and minimums may have nothing to do with the actual operating costs or actual operating characteristics for a given firm. So this is not correct. The range over which costs fluctuate. Well, cost may fluctuate at any level of activity, not the relevant range. Incorrect. The range over which the relevant costs are incurred. This is again incorrect. Costs are incurred at every possible operating point, not just the relevant range. So then what is correct? The managerial accounting says relevant range is often used to describe the range over which the cost relationship are valid. And what relationship? That within the relevant range, your variable cost per unit stays the same and your total fixed cost stays the same within the relevant range and within the short term. That's correct. Which of the following choices shows the proper treatment of sales commissions and abnormal spoilage? Sales commission is quite a self-explanatory term. The commission paid to our sales staff based upon the level of sales achieved. Abnormal spoilage is the spoilage in our production that is not expected. It should not have happened. The units spoiled beyond our normal tolerance limit is called as abnormal spoilage since it is our inefficiency. So we cannot charge our inefficiency to our production cost. So normally abnormal spoilage is not kept within production cost. It is excluded and charged as a loss separately. So it says that when calculating a manufactured cost of goods, inventoriable cost, what do we do with the sales commission and abnormal spoilage? Sales commission is not a product cost. It is not included as inventoriable cost, also called the product cost. And abnormal spoilage, since it is our inefficiency, we cannot charge our inefficiency as a product cost. So they both must be excluded. They are both not part of the product cost. D is the right option. Cost drivers are activities that cause costs to increase as the activity increases. If you drive more miles, your maintenance cost goes up. If there are more patients, the hospital cleaning cost goes up. So miles driven, number of hospitals, these are number of patients. These are cost drivers that cause the activity to go up, and this resultantly causes the cost to go up. This is the correct option. Look no further. Accounting measurements used to evaluate whether or not performance is proceeding according to the plan. This is incorrect. Cost drivers like number of patients, like miles driven, like pounds shipped, like components handled, they are what you call the activity drivers. But we are talking about accounting measurements. They are not accounting measurements. Cost drivers are not accounting measurements. Wrong. Cost drivers are mechanical basis such as machine hours, true, computer time, true, size of equipment, square footage of area. It could also be non-mechanical. It could be dollar-based as well. Your cost driver, let's say your material handling cost may depend upon the cost of material, which is a dollar-based driver. So it is not entirely true. Cost linked to two or more other costs. Wrong. Cost drivers are not costs. They may be, but they are not costs. They are the causes of costs being incurred. Cost driver is defined as the largest cost in the manufacturing process. Cost driver is not a cost, remember. Cost driver is defined as the significant factor in the development of a new product. Wrong. Cost driver is defined as an indirect cost that cannot, it is not cost. Cost driver are causal factors, are the causes that increases the total cost of the cost objective. This is the right option. A cost that is fixed per unit is an example of fixed per unit. Fixed cost per unit falls as we increase our level of activity. If you just plot it, and if you take your quantity on the x-axis, your fixed cost per unit on the y-axis, as you produce more unit, your fixed cost per unit will fall, and will continue to fall, and these two lines will continue to move together. They will never meet. This is called horizontal asymptote. So fixed cost per unit falls. Mixed cost per unit falls as activity goes up. Direct cost, it could either be fixed or variable. So we are looking for the fixed cost, that is the cost that is fixed per unit, that is variable cost. Variable cost per unit like direct material, direct labor. Let's say it takes us $3 of material, $7 of labor. So every time you produce a unit, it costs you 10, 10, 10. 3 for material, 7 for labor. This is called the variable cost per unit. So a cost that is fixed per unit, $10 per unit, is an example of variable cost, and that makes B to be the correct option. Graham Company develops computer programs to meet customers' special requirements. How would Graham categorize payments to employees who develop these programs? The programmers. The salary paid or the amount paid to the programmers is a direct cost because it could be traced to the end product, the software, and at the same time it's a value-adding cost because this cost will increase utility in the software. So these are the direct costs as well as the value-adding cost. Value-adding costs are those costs that increase the customer utility. It increases customer satisfaction. It increases quality, quantity, and responsiveness of processes. And non-value-adding costs do not make such a contribution. The example of non-value-adding costs could be material handling, storage, production scheduling. Customer doesn't care about such costs. Such costs do not add customer utility. So we got our answer, it's A. Conversion cost pricing places minimal emphasis on the cost of material. Not minimal, it places no emphasis on the cost of material because conversion cost is simply the sum of direct labor and manufacturing overhead. There is no material in it, so no emphasis on material. Conversion cost pricing could be used when the customer furnishes the material and you have to incur the labor and the relevant manufacturing overhead to make the product complete. And this is what you could use for pricing. So it could be used when customer furnishes the material used in the manufacturing a product where you incur your labor and overheads, and this is what helps you establish your price. This is correct option. It is the correct option. Why not C? Conversion cost pricing places heavy emphasis on the indirect cost and disregards the consideration of direct cost. Then what about direct labor, which is a part of your conversion cost? Places heavy emphasis on the direct cost and disregards consideration of indirect cost. How can you do that? Manufacturing overhead is a part of your production cost. So we got our correct options. B. Costs are allocated to cost objectives in many ways and for many reasons. Which of the following is a purpose of cost allocation? Purpose of cost allocation. Evaluating revenue center performance. Remember, revenue center is responsible for revenues only, so it has nothing to do with cost. This is incorrect. Measuring income and asset for external reporting purposes. That is correct. You need cost allocation so as to establish your overall cost of production, sales, and marketing to establish income. And you also need cost allocation so as to value the items that are in your closing stock as an asset for external reporting purposes. That is correct. This is one of the purpose of cost allocation for income measurement and for asset valuation, inventory, unsold stock for external reporting purpose. Aiding in variable costing for internal reporting. Variable costing does not require any cost allocation. In variable costing, we simply use those costs that vary with the level of production and sales, and it requires no cost allocation at all. Implementing activity-based costing. This is incorrect as well because activity-based costing requires determining what causes the costs to go up, what are the cost driver, and what is the effect of those increase and decrease in those cost drivers. So we got our correct option is B. Zeta Company is preparing its annual profit plan as a part of its analysis of the profitability of the individual products. The controller estimates the amount of overhead that should be allocated to individual product lines from the information given below. We have two products, wall mirrors and specialty windows. Units produced 25 each. Materials moves per product line. 5 moves are needed for wall mirrors and 15 moves are required for specialty windows. Direct labor hours per unit. 200 labor hours are required for this item and same for the other. Budgeted material handling cost which we need to allocate on these items is $50,000 under a costing system that allocates overheads on the basis of direct labor hour. The estimated or the material handling cost allocated to 1 unit of wall mirrors would be. Let us do them both, wall mirrors and specialty windows. How many labor hours are required? 25 times 200 hours per unit. You need 5,000 hours for total wall mirrors production, and 25 by 200, that you 5,000 for the specialty window. It means total 10,000 labor hours are required. Let us calculate the rate per labor hour for allocating the overhead cost. Under costing system that allocates overheads on the basis of direct labor hours means you're going to allocate 50,000 of material handling cost based upon the total 10,000 labor hours required for manufacturing wall mirrors and specialty windows. So if you calculate the rate, it's going to be $5 per labor hour. Now, since wall mirrors require 200 labor hours and the application rate of overhead is $5 per labor hour, so 200 times 5, so you charge $1,000 of your material handling cost to each wall mirror. And likewise, you charge the same. That is 200 is the overall labor hours times 5, again 1,000. Now this appears to be very inappropriate. Material handling cost is charged equally to wall mirrors and specialty windows, whereas we know for sure that it is much more easier to manufacture wall mirrors because it requires just 5 moves. And specialty windows requires 3 times more moves, 15 moves. How can you charge same handling cost on both of these items? That is one of the problem with the conventional cost allocation. And this is what has led to activity-based costing. Let me do this question with ABC. It is not the topic under discussion right now, but you need to know why ABC is essential and why ABC is more equitable way of cost allocation. Now, instead of using the labor hours as the allocation base, why don't we use the actual cost driver? The actual cost driver is the material moves. How many moves do we need per wall mirror? 5. How many wall mirrors are we planning to produce? 25. So it means the total moves required by wall mirrors are 125. How many moves are needed by specialty window? 25 times 15. It's going to be 375. If you add these both, you need total of 500 moves. And these moves will cost a total of $50,000. It makes much more sense now. Each move costs you $10. So item that requires more moves, baby, it will carry more cost. Now, since it requires 15 moves to manufacture a specialty window, it should be charged with $1,500 of material handling cost. And the wall mirror, it takes less moves, 5 moves only, 5 times 10, just 500. Now, this makes much more sense. Makes much more sense. The item that requires less moves carries less handling cost. The item that takes more moves carries more handling cost. That's the magic of activity-based costing. It results in more accurate cost allocation. Better product costing, hence better pricing. Next question. In order to increase the profit margin for a certain product, a company is planning to purchase custom-made machines for $5 million. It is anticipated that the introduction of the new machine will reduce the product variable cost of labor by 5.5 and maintenance by 0.95 per unit. The product manager estimates that 500,000 units of the product will be manufactured and sold each year with the product life cycle of 2 years, at which time the machine will be discarded with no salvage value. Alright. What is the company's total cost savings over the product's life cycle? First, we have $5.5 worth of labor cost that would be saved, plus 0.95 worth of maintenance cost that would be saved, and this is the total saving on 500,000 units per year for 2 years. So the total savings 5.5 plus 0.95 times 500,000 times 2 it's 6.645000. But this is not the answer, because in order to get this much saving, you have to spend $5 million in acquiring the asset, the machine. The net saving is 1,450,000. That makes B to be the correct option. Remember, you need to calculate the total saving. From this, you need to deduct the special cost of custom-made machine. Only then you will get your right answer. Alex company had the following inventories at the beginning and end of the month of January. You have got the opening material, work in process and finished goods, closing material, work in process and finished goods. The following additional information data was available for the month of January. Direct material purchased, returns, transportation in, direct labor, actual factory overheads. What is required? Alex company applies factory overheads at the rate of 60% of direct labor cost. And any over-applied and under-applied factory overhead is deferred until the year end. There we treat the over and under-applied. There are two treatments. Either it is charged directly to CGS if it is immaterial, and if the amount is big, it is prorated between work in process, finished goods and CGS. That's a complex area to be discussed somewhere later. What we need to know is what is the prime cost for January. We know prime cost is the sum of direct material used plus direct labor. So direct labor is straightforward, $300,000, no working required for this. Direct material use would require some computations. How do we calculate direct material use? Take the opening stock of direct material. To this add the direct material purchased. Deduct any returns or allowances. Add the transportation cost. If you do that, opening stock plus purchased less return plus transportation, this will give you the material available for consumption. 134, 189, 1000 to be deducted plus 3000. It's 325. This is the material available for consumption. If we still have $124,000 worth of material, it means what we have consumed is 325 less 124. That will give you 201. So this is the direct material used. So direct material used plus direct labor, this will give you what you call the prime cost, 501,000. That makes A to be the correct option. Matter company's beginning and ending inventories for the month of November are given. Finished goods, work in process material, opening and closing. Direct labor, actual factory overhead, direct material purchase, transportation in, purchase, return and allowances. It further says Mattec uses one factory overhead control account where the actual overheads are accumulated and charges factory overhead to production at 70% of direct labor cost. This is the application rate, 70% of direct labor cost. This. The company does not formally recognize over or under applied overhead until the year end, just like the previous question. We need to find the prime cost. We know what to do. We just need to take the relevant numbers and get our answer. We need to have the direct material opening stock plus direct material purchased plus transportation in less returns. This will give you the direct material available for consumption, and from this we will deduct the closing stock. Simple as that. So I'm going to take the number 67 plus 163 purchased plus 4,000 transportation less returns. This is the material available for consumption, 232, and from this 232 I'm going to deduct, this is the material available for consumption. Deduct 62 from this, they'll give you, if your 62 is deducted, it will give you the direct material consumed, 170. To this direct material you need to add direct labor, which is $200,000. This will give you the prime cost sum of direct material, direct labor, which has to be 370, and 370 it is. Next we have the following is selected information from the records of Ray Incorporated. What is the total amount of conversion cost? We know conversion cost is the sum of direct labor and the manufacturing overhead. I'm going to list down some formulas which will go a long way with you and will help you in many aspects of your preparation. First, how do we calculate the direct material used? We discussed this in previous part. The direct material opening stock plus purchases plus transportation minus any returns minus closing stock. This will give you direct material used. Then, how do we calculate the total manufacturing cost? Remember, total manufacturing cost is the sum of direct material used above plus direct labor plus manufacturing overhead, which could be actual based upon your control account, or it could be applied just like in the previous two questions where the overhead was applied at the rate of 70% of direct labor or 50% direct labor. This is called the total manufacturing cost. Then what you have, the third one is called the cost of goods manufactured, which is equal to total manufacturing cost calculated above plus adding the work in process opening account and deducting the work in process closing. Work in process are partly finished goods. Then finally you have the cost of goods sold, which is calculated based upon the cost of goods manufactured. To this we add the finished goods opening stock minus finished goods closing stock, and that's what to give you the cost of goods sold. Now, interesting part is that we have to work back and we have to find this direct labor and manufacturing overhead, which is the sum we call as conversion cost. So the first step is to calculate the cost of goods manufactured. And how we're going to do it? We have been given the cost of goods sold, which is $12,000. This is what I need to find out. We have the finished goods opening, which is given as 1200, and finished goods closing, that is 1400. So if I make CGM the subject of this equation, and if I simplify, it's going to be 12,000 plus 1400 less 1200. That gives me 12,200 as CGM. 12,200 is the cost of goods manufactured. Since there are no work in process opening or closing, so your cost of goods manufactured is basically your total manufacturing cost, right? Now, if the total manufacturing cost is 12,200 because there was no opening work in process or closing, and we have already been given the direct material used by, if you just use this, opening stock was 500, purchase was for 6,000 units, $6,000 worth, no transportation, no returns, and deduct closing stock, which is 800. This will give you direct material consumed, 500 plus 6,000 less 800, that is 5,700. So plug it in, 5,700 is your direct material consumed or used, 12,200 is the total manufacturing cost. Make direct labor plus manufacturing overhead, which is the conversion cost, as the subject to the equation. Net these two off. 12,200 less 5,700 gives you 6,500. So that means direct labor plus manufacturing overhead is 6,500, which is your conversion cost and which is your correct option. Fab company manufactures textiles. Among Fab's year 1 manufacturing cost were the following salaries: loom operators, factory foreman is fixed, machine mechanics, it may be variable but it is not related directly to the production, or it can't be called as a direct labor. What we need is the direct labor cost. So the direct labor cost for the textile industry is the salary wages paid to the loom operators. That's what you call direct labor, and that's going to be D. D is the right option.